So I'm supposed to find the Shadow King from inside a daiquiri.
Are you sure we can't shave your head? Don't touch my hair.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. Pass the waffles because Legion is back and we have the craziest of openers to talk about. I got so many questions about this. What's going on? What are they implying? It's not quite as confusing as it seems. They did a pretty good job of explaining all that missing time at the very end of the episode. If you are brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Marvel videos. There's going to be a ton of Marvel dropping between Infinity War and Deadpool in the next couple of months. So just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Also, added bonus, there's 10 episodes this season instead of 8 like last season. So I'll try to explain what the video schedule is going to be at the end of this, because as you could tell from crazy astral plane dance battles, Legion is a very different kind of superhero show. I wouldn't even call it a superhero show. So let's just start with the big stuff first. I'll go through my normal top 10, but there's way more stuff to talk about, so I'll try to squeeze it all in. But starting with the big thing first, that opening narration in the montage. So you may have detected the familiar voice of the narrator, sort of like a Rod Serling thing going on.
There was a maze in the desert, carved from sand and rock. A vast labyrinth of pathways and corridors.
That's Jon Hamm from Mad Men. The creator was like, I met him a little while ago. I needed someone to do these educational voiceovers, as he calls them. And Jon Hamm was like, yeah, sure, of course I'll do it. So Jon Hamm is going to be doing this throughout the season. Don't know how long they booked him for. Could be for the entire season. So we might get these Jon Hamm scenes where he explains concepts every single week. His voiceover is mostly talking about how David is still tied up with the Shadow King on a psychic level. Like, even though his body is elsewhere, they're still communicating with each other on a certain level. And because of that big WTF at the end, we actually learn that he's helping him a little bit. But like the way they open the episode talking about getting lost in the maze of your own mind, it's all about David being this insane character from the comics that gets lost within the maze of his own mind as he goes deeper and deeper into the psychic realms in the astral plane. But it's also a nice way to talk about what's going on with Oliver's character too, because you see him a couple times during the episode. So the opening montage over that voiceover where the camera pulls away from Oliver in the pool all the way out to him in present day, you see the new actor playing Amal Farouk sitting in a chair in what looks like Paris in one of the levels of his mind. It's just a way to show you how the Shadow King is in control of Oliver's body, and he's also keeping Lenny and these other personalities at bay. The funny thing here, though, is what's going on with Lenny's character, because technically Lenny is the Shadow King, but it's another version of the Shadow King when he was still in David's mind. So don't drive yourself too crazy trying to figure everything out. But the big dance battle, so we got to talk about that, and the club and what it represents. They actually found David's physical body in a club somewhere that looks like the club that they have the dance battle in. So there's like a psychic representation of the club that represents when he's talking and communicating with the Shadow King. So early in the episode, the first time you see him try to follow this person who is the Shadow King, like his true form, you see Lenny and Oliver stand up to block his way. That's basically the Shadow King's psychic defenses, represented by these two characters, trying to stop David from penetrating his mind and locating him. Like he says, the Shadow King is hiding from me. The fact that it's a dance battle is just the director and the creator's way of visualizing their psychic battle, because this is all happening in the astral plane. So if you wondered why they suddenly broke into song and dance, and why all the lights started flashing behind them, that's just them having their full-blown wizard battle. But the real cool thing that they do this season is they let you know what the stakes are, the goal by the end of the season, right away. So we have a very clear track to the finale. Shadow King looking for his body. They need to stop him because if the Shadow King's consciousness rejoins with his body, he'll be unstoppable. We'll address the crazy twist at the end of the episode because that's all about what's going on with this new Admiral character, who I know everybody has a lot of questions about, but they just want to show you how there's conflict within the group and conflict between the characters outside of this overarching conflict with the Shadow King. So Shadow King is still the main villain of the season, but within each character's arc, they have a conflict with another character. Like Sid says, you're keeping secrets from me. So there's even a conflict between the two of them, because he's really trying to do what future Sid wants him to do, but present-day Sid doesn't know anything about that, so she's really pissed off. But at the center of it all, you have David, who's trying to defeat the Shadow King without killing Oliver, which is what Section 3 is trying to do. They'll kill the Shadow King at any cost, even if it means destroying Oliver's body, Which is what I think that post-credit scene in Sid from the future was talking about. When she says, you need to help him find his body. I think that's because they want to separate him from Oliver's body so that they can fight the Shadow King and defeat him without having to kill Oliver. Because looping it back around to Oliver's wife, who was doing all the drugs during the episode, she looked completely off her rocker. And if you weren't sure what was going on with that crazy bird-like creature that was wheeling past her, that was another representation of what you could call this black goo creature, the delusion that fosters in someone's mind. So she's got this full-blown delusion. It probably gets worse. Something terrible happens because Oliver probably ends up dying in this original version of the timeline. So Sid from the future probably came back to tell David, you need to help find a way to defeat the Shadow King that doesn't involve Oliver dying. So David is sort of caught between these two camps. Everybody in present day, he wants to do the right thing, fight the Shadow King, but he also has to wrestle with the idea that he has to help the Shadow King because the current path that they're on only leads to something even worse. But hopefully that explains what that post-credit scene was about. That was probably the biggest question I got. Is like, where was he for a year? So the basic premise is that when he got sucked up into that sphere that was sent by Sid from the future, he actually left the sphere, went to help the Shadow King. So when they say that Oliver had popped up and there were sightings all over the world in the past year, David was with him. David can teleport, the Shadow King cannot. So just a reminder, they tried to tell you what everyone's abilities are, and they had this big montage at the beginning of the episode. They sort of let you know what was going on if you haven't watched the episodes in a while. But in the comics, David has thousands of different powers. On the TV show, the only ones we've seen so far is telepathy, telekinesis, and teleportation. So he has all the ultimate treasure hunter abilities. They can search people's minds to try and find traces of where the body might be and teleport instantaneously. But because his mind is so fragile, and because he's operating with the Shadow King on so many different psychic levels, he's starting to get lost within the maze of his mind. So he's a very unreliable narrator. So if you're confused about the series, it's because it's being told largely from David's perspective, and he's not always sure what's going on. So that's why we as the audience, as we watch things play out, aren't totally sure what's going on. The set design was amazing. We could talk all day about how amazing the series just looks, the way that they film it, the set design, the costumes, and the way that they use that within episodes to tell you what's going on with the characters, give you an idea for where their headspace is, and make you feel disoriented, like when David's talking to the Admiral, but he has the staircase behind him, that's sort of a visual metaphor for the staircase of his mind winding down deeper levels into his psyche. The best metaphor that I could give for the Admiral character is that he's kind of a Trask figure. Someone who's good, wants to stop the villain, but really doesn't care about mutant kind. He said flat out that he's going to exterminate Oliver at any cost. We need to do anything we can to stop the Shadow King from getting his body. Of course, we have to mention the female mustaches. They're basically androids, like part human, part machine, but they have one psyche that's all sort of linked collectively. He uses them to communicate, probably as a defense mechanism, so that other people like David can't read his mind. The creator said the reason he wears that basket on his head is to show that he has no ego. There was an ancient Chinese general in the real world that wore one, so he's doing that to show that he's not an egotistical person that's only in it for more power. That pretty much covers most of it. Talking about Amal Farouk, though, this character looks much more like comic book Amal Farouk. I don't know about this actor here. He just seems like a more polished version of that character. So I think when they find his body by the end of the season, this is what the body will actually look like, even though he's inhabited so many different minds across the years. Remember, he's from the 1800s, so he's been alive for a long time before Charles Xavier trapped him on the astral plane. Talking a little bit more about the Professor X of it all, Patrick Stewart did say last year that he was totally game to come on the show. I don't know what plans they've made. They did say that they would push deeper into his origin, but just remember, if we do see Professor X on the TV show, it'll probably wind up being Patrick Stewart. I feel like that would be more rewarding to the fans than seeing James McAvoy in old man makeup. But the really big Easter egg too, John Hamm doing the voiceover for this series, John Hamm was actually going to be Mr. Sinister during the New Mutants movie. That's right, they were going to do Mr. Sinister, but then there was a report that the Dark Phoenix movie, separately from that, was actually going to do the Mr. Sinister character, except that it was going to be the female Miss Sinister gender-bent character played by Jessica Chastain, because she's going to be the main villain of Dark Phoenix. What'll probably happen is because last season, just Legion wasn't super popular on my channel, we'll see how this video does, and at the very least, I will do a video for every couple of episodes, and definitely one for the finale like I did last season. So no worries, and the same thing is going to happen with Krypton, so I'm not going to be doing another Krypton episode video for a little while, but if they do something really big, then I'll do a bonus video for that. And I know there's still like a ton of Legion questions, like I only talked about brief parts of the episode, so post all your questions in the comments below. But while you wait for everything, click here for that brand new Deadpool Cancer trailer, and click here for brand new Infinity War. Thank you so much for watching, everybody stay awesome, I'll see you guys tonight.